A question I wanted to broach really quickly is the idea of demon possession and demonic oppression. This is a topic that I get all the time and something that I have grown in my belief in over time. Early in my faith, I was very skeptical of these things, demonic oppression, demonic possession. You see movies about it and stuff, and most of the movies get everything pretty much wrong. And it made me very skeptical of believing that demonic oppression and possession even existed. But as I've been growing in my faith and experiencing things and seeing things, I have really developed a different view on this than I formerly had. Many Christians see this almost as a taboo topic, that if you start talking about demons, well, now you're like more of a Pentecostal or maybe Catholic, because Catholics have a lot of this. And I think this is a major error. Christians need to be talking about demonic things because when you look at the New Testament, Jesus is casting out a lot of demons. They are there and they are effective in their deluding of the minds of the people. They are effective in scaring people. And the reason why we need to be talking about this is because demonic oppression especially is very prevalent in the modern day. Now, if you don't know what demonic oppression is versus demonic possession, I'm going to define these things for you right now. Demonic possession is typically what you would see in the movies, right? The person is completely taken over by this demon. And it may not be manifesting all the time, but the demon will be able to control the person's body, will be able to speak through the person. This would be possession. But there's the other side of things, and this is what you will more commonly see. Almost most cases are going to be demonic oppression. This is going to be someone who maybe sees demonic things in their everyday life, like sleep paralysis can at times be demonic oppression. They will maybe be having an ailment, being sick because of some demon that is affecting their body. Or maybe there is a demon who is impacting their thoughts, is able to whisper in their ear and give them thoughts that maybe aren't their origin of their own mind. This is what demonic oppression is. And demonic oppression, like I said, is the more common thing that you will see. Everyone who is not a Christian, in a sense, has some form of demonic oppression because, it says Satan has blinded the eyes of the unbelievers, that they can't understand the gospel. A lot of people are facing off against this. I'm not saying like literally everyone, and there's different degrees of it, but it's a lot of people. And you will encounter it. If you were in ministry, you will encounter this. And this is what changed my mind. As I've done evangelism in my life, as I've done hospital visits of people who are sick, I have noticed that there is significantly more demonic presence in the world than I formerly thought. I thought that it was a very fringe thing, it wasn't common, and I was absolutely incorrect about this. Demonic oppression and demonic possession are very real, and they happen all the time. Now, I'll tell you a story, and this was kind of my first major experience with someone who I think was demonically possessed. This is the very significant thing. This is a high level of possession here. This isn't just someone who has like voices in their ear or someone who's sick because of something. This is someone who is basically completely taken over, going into almost like a psychosis over their demonic possession. And I won't use any names, of course, but this is what happened. I was introduced to someone who was visiting my church who had not gone to church in a long time, formerly was a Christian, but their daughter was going through a lot of mental problems, and they thought that it was purely psychological. So I was invited to come visit this girl who was in the hospital for a psychotic episode. She was out of her right mind. So I was invited in to come in and pray with her and talk to her and try and, lead her to the gospel and things like that. And I went in, and it was immediately evident to me that I was not dealing with someone who had merely a psychological issue. Because on my entry into the room, she was immediately very defensive. And this is very common of demonically possessed people. And she started to giggle and you know what I mean about this giggle is it's not like a normal laughter. It's a very strange laughter. It's got like a weird origin. It's like an uncomfortable laughter. And if you've ever experienced this, you know what I'm talking about. This is very unnatural. It's a very supernatural thing. And she started to say things that were extremely odd. And I don't even know how to describe it, but it's almost as if it's not her talking. And as I'm there, I'm like just kind of immediately aware of the potent evil that is in the room. right? I feel it in my spirit. That's the only way I could describe it. I couldn't point it out in a very clear way, but it was in my spirit. I just felt like I was not dealing with normal things, normal sins. I was dealing with something much deeper. So I started probing and started asking questions, and it was very difficult to keep her on topic. She's always being distracted, always talking about random gibberish that you wouldn't understand, and you have to keep asking and probing and finding out, what is this from? Where is this demon coming from? How did this demon get a stronghold in this person's life? And that's always the key. Demons need a foothold. That's why the Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Don't give the devil a foothold. Because the devil, once you give him a foothold, that foothold will become stronger and stronger and stronger over time until eventually it's a stronghold and eventually you are possessed by a demon. This is how these things happen. It's not just like some random occurrence where you're just walking along the street one day and then a demon just enters you. It's not like that. Demonic oppression and possession happen because you have some sin in your life that you are not letting go of and that you let fester over and over again throughout your life until eventually the demon gets a full hold on you. And that is what happened with this girl. I asked her questions, and it took a long time, an hour and a half probably. I was in there for my first meeting with her, and it took that long just to get out from her that she had hatred in her heart. And I mean, like, not just like, oh, I don't like somebody. I mean, like, hatred. Like, I would murder this person. And that was it. That's all I needed to hear. And once I heard that, after listening to her giggle for like an hour, once I got that information out of her, I immediately was like, okay, this is a demon. I need to work on this. And I started praying out loud. She didn't want to hear any of it. I started basically just preaching at her that she has a demon. She has allowed a demon into her life. There's actually a nurse practitioner in the room with me, and they were like, what is happening? Because it was crazy. It was wild. And I came out of that experience completely changed in my views of what the demonic were. I had heard about it, I had thought about it, but I had never really understood what it was. But now I did. This is what demons were. And I remember as I was preaching at her, she went from like giggling and laughing to immediately like stone cold face. Like, I mean, like, it was almost as if she was like seeing a vision. Stone cold face, wasn't moving at all, sitting in the bed. And then she looks at me, and then she said, I'm done. And then she got up out of the bed and went into the bathroom, locked the door, and she wouldn't come out until I had left. So that was my first experience with the demonic. And I had more visits after that where you could start to see some progress, where I would start preaching the gospel at her and telling her the truth of the world and how things were and spiritual things, and that Jesus is the only way to set her free. And after that, we saw her be, I believe, set free from the demon. It wasn't like in the movies where they start screeching and throwing up and, oh, the demon comes out. It wasn't like that. But it seemed as if she was in her right mind. And she actually started coming to our Bible study for a time. But then, after a few weeks, I noticed the demon had come back. And the demon came back, and just like Jesus says in the parables, it came back with other stronger demons. She started sending extremely provocative pictures and messages to our group chat, and I just was like, all right, the demon's back. We just got to, all we can do is pray for her, because she wouldn't meet with us anymore. She wouldn't see me anymore. I wasn't able to talk to her. The demon had come back, and it was stronger than ever. So my encouragement after all of this story is if you are setting someone free from a demon, you got to make sure you replace that demon with the Holy Spirit. And you only have a short window for that sometimes. That demon may come back with those stronger demons, just like Jesus says. And if that happens, you need to be on guard. Now, one little tidbit thing that I want to say here is, this is not something that you should be seeking out. You shouldn't be seeking out demons, and you need to be very careful about where you let this person go. Don't let them near your children. Don't let them near your wife if you can help it. Sometimes you'll need your wife in these situations. But these demonic things, they aren't just isolated into one person. They can impact people around you. So you need to be very careful about these things. Now, that is demonic possession, and that's what most people are thinking of when they think of these things. But what about demonic oppression? Demonic oppression is what we see very, very often in evangelism. You see it all the time. People who are oppressed by a demon, they don't even know it. They have no idea. Maybe they did something they weren't supposed to do. Maybe they sinned in a certain way and they let a demon in, or maybe they were even playing with a Ouija board. These things are gateways. I'm not trying to be like weird or super spiritual, but these things are real. I've talked to people who played with a Ouija board and then all of a sudden they're getting sleep paralysis demons every night. It's like, maybe there's a coincidence there, maybe, or maybe you actually did do something. You actually partook in a spiritual ritual that maybe you weren't even aware of. And that demon is now influential in your life, and you got to get rid of it. I can speak from personal experience. I think that I, in the past, have had a demonic oppression where a demon was telling me to kill myself, where a demon was making me extremely depressed. I think that this was a demon. In hindsight, I can look back and think, wow, maybe that was a demonic presence in my life that I wasn't even aware of. This was a time of also in my life of great sin where I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing, and I was giving Satan a foothold. I had a lot of hatred in my heart. I had a lot of sins that I was committing, right? These are the times in people's lives where you can become oppressed. And people often get confused where they think, oh, if I'm a Christian, demons can't touch me. But is that true? No, that is not true at all. Why is Paul warning against giving Satan a foothold in your life? Why would he be doing that? Demons can oppress Christians, but they cannot possess the Christian. The demons can oppress, they can put thoughts in your head, they can try to tempt you, they can do these things, but they cannot possess you. You have the Holy Spirit of God in you. But this is important to clarify because there's a lot of confusion about this topic. You can be oppressed by a demon. You can. And it is not pleasant, and you need to work on getting holy, getting right with the Lord if you want this thing to go away. So how do you tell if someone is actually demonically oppressed? And this is especially important to know if you are evangelizing. How do you know if someone has demonic oppression or even possession? But that's more evident. You can know pretty quickly, honestly. We see it all the time with people. Spiritual warfare is very real out there on the battlefield. Sometimes you'll be in the middle of a conversation with someone where you're just getting to sharing the gospel, and then all of a sudden, someone will walk by and start barking. Someone will walk by and start being distracting. And barking especially, that's almost a sure sign that that person is oppressed by a demon. Animal sounds, especially dogs barking, is something we see all the time out there on the boardwalk when we're evangelizing or in conversations on college campuses. We'll be having a great conversation with someone and someone starts coming by and distracting with barking. Don't ask me why, but that seems to be the case. Animal sounds are not a good sign. That person who's distracting is probably oppressed, if not possessed by a demon. And sometimes it comes out with the person that you're even talking to that they are being oppressed. They may start saying some weird spiritual things. And in those times, what I often do is I just ask them, like, have you ever had a spiritual experience? Have you ever seen a demon or seen a spirit? Don't call them a demon because they probably don't know. Have you ever seen a spirit in your life? Have you ever had a vision of something? And you'd be astonished at how many people will just start telling you a story of some demon that shows up in the mirror behind them while they're brushing their teeth sometimes, or some spirit that shows up to them at night while they're sleeping. You would be completely shocked at how many people have these stories. And guess what that is? That's a demonic oppression. That is someone who has a demon who is influencing their life in their everyday. And it is your job as a Christian to point that out to them. You don't have to be like, oh, that's a demon and they're trying to kill you, but you can say something like, hey, that's really interesting that you had this spiritual experience, but maybe this thing doesn't have your best interest in mind. Maybe this thing is trying to deceive you. And sure enough, that's probably what's going on. Or I hear all the time from people who do drugs. Oh, I took a psychedelic and now I have a demon that shows up in the mirror. Oh, I smoke a lot of pot and I've got like this spirit that talks to me sometimes. Or I have a voice in my head that's always telling me to do something. Like, these are things that happen, and these cannot just be chalked up to psychological things. These are real spiritual dangers, and we as Christians need to be aware of them so that when we go out on the battlefield, we know exactly what to say to people and exactly what to do in these situations. Now, I know this topic is extremely complicated, but I hope you're getting some insights out of the stories that I'm telling right now. Some insights that you can use in your own life. And maybe you're maybe even spotting something in your own life where like, man, maybe I've got some demonic oppression. And if that's you, or if you know someone who has something like this, please leave a comment below. I would be more than happy to talk to you about this and kind of guide you through this process, because what that person needs more than anything is the gospel. They need to hear about Jesus. They need to hear the truth, not the deceptive lies that they're being fed by this demonic spirit. They need to hear the truth, and it's your job to get that truth to them. Tell them about Christ. Tell them that they can be freed from sin. There's a reason why my channel name is Free Indeed. Whom the Son sets free, they will be free indeed.